Hey folks, in this video we're going to be taking a look at some figurines. These are known as Wade Whimsies. So we'll check this out. So these Wade figurines were made by a company in England named Wade Pottery or Ceramics, and they were producing these items, and then later they made a deal with the Rose tea company, and so that these figurines would come with tea, with rose tea when you got that tea. So these figurines today that I have here are figurines that my mom collected. And I think most of them did come from those teas, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. And this first set that we see up here, these are from the mid-'80s. They're part of a certain set when they would release these figurine packs, or these figurines. They would be part of a set. So they'd have a circus set or a wild animal set or something like that. And so these were all part of the same set. And there's a few more animals that were part of that set that we don't have here. But that's what this set is. And so we can go through some of these. So they're kind of small, so it's even a little bit difficult to give you a really good view of these little guys, but you can basically see them pretty well. You know, and for scale, you can kind of see my hand. They're pretty small, inch and a half maybe. Some of the larger ones. High, different dimensions, but somewhere around there. So this little guy is a bush baby. That's what they called this one. And you can see they're hand painted, these little figurines. So I'm not an expert on these items nor on ceramics, but I did try to do some research, and you know, it's such a thing you'd think it would be not too hard to find a pretty definitive source and a pretty definitive story, but it's not that clear. It seems like there's some conflicting stories about when and what and how. So, you know, I'm going to sort of be able to tell you what I was able to find out, but there's not an absolutely clear picture. It seems like the Wade Company had two ranges of times when they were working with the rose tea, and there's this early period in the 60s and 70s, and then a later period in the 80s, 90s, and even into the 2000s. And Rose Tea even says they still do this today with certain online orders and other special orders. So it's a little hard to get an exact, time and otherwise from any one piece. You can, sometimes put them in these collections, like these are all part of one collection or one set. But it can be a little hard to get a definitive idea. And my wife was explaining to me that the way they would make these would be a mold, and you can kind of see there's this mold line. And it would have been slightly larger before they fired it. Not a lot larger, but a little bit larger. And then when they fired it, it would come down to this size. And then they would paint it and put a glaze on it and fire it again. And that's what would make this glaze stick and be this shiny effect that you have on it now. And these figurines were hand painted, probably on an assembly line, just very quickly by people painting as the items went by on an assembly line, but they were still hand painted. And so there's variation if you see different examples of these items. There might be slight variations on the colors and on how they look. And most of them will say Wade, England, somewhere on them. And there doesn't seem to be a clear indication that if it says Wade one way or the other. Some of them say Wade on one side and England on the other. Some say Wade, England. Like this one, it's even hard to find the Wade part. This side, you may not be able to see that, but this side says England. And somewhere around that base, you would expect to find Wade, but I'm not even seeing that. So there's some variation in that. There doesn't seem to be any clear indication that what those variations might indicate. But anyway, this little guy is the bush baby, part of this set. And this is owl is part of that set. You can see the colors are pretty cool on these. And this little bunny, you can kind of get a sense now of how there are differences in these individual items. We got 3 examples of the bunny. And you can see there's some different colorations, how they were painted and glazed. So you get some slight variation from bunny to bunny. Sometimes I don't know if you like that sound. I don't want to clack them together too much. They might chip, but they do sound kind of cool when they're rattling around, kind of like marbles. And this bird is pretty cool. You can see now that we've got multiple colors on this one. It's a little more obvious than some of the others with the, in this case, blue wingtips on this bird. You know, and some of them, like this example, say Wade, England. I don't know how clearly you can see that, but it says Wade, England on the bottom. And not all of them do that. And again, there's no real clear indication, like this owl doesn't have that. No real clear indication of what that means. Maybe there was just no other place to put it on this figure because it didn't have a base or something. See, if you look at the rabbit, it says Wade, England on one side along the base. And then we've got this seal. And again, there's a couple of examples, so you can see, again, some small variations between individual examples. And these again have, these again have Wade, England along the space. And these were called Wade Whimsies. They were first distributed in England and then later into the US. And this is the wild boar. We have 2 examples of that. And again, you can see small variations in individual figurines. And this one says Wade, England along the bottom. Cute little wild boar. And I'll talk about these two little guys. So these two figurines were in this same box full of figurines, but these are clearly not the Wade Whimsy figurine. These are something else, this little raccoon and this little squirrel. They're pretty cute though. And these say Fred K. Ceramics on the bottom. And I didn't do a lot of research on that, so I don't know for sure what that is, but they're pretty cute. Similar size, kind of a similar type thing, but these are not the Wade, these are not Wade Whimsies. They're not part of the T collection. So then I have some, what I've determined to be older ones. And they produced a number of these for the English market, specifically for the English market. And this is an example. So this is a corgi. And, you know, from what I can tell, this item was not part of the U.S., and it was earlier in the 60s. But, you know, I could be wrong. It's hard to tell. But, so my mom might have, you know, purchased this. I think most of these she would have got in tea. But she might have purchased some of these at a garage sale or a vintage store. And you can see this little corgi has Wade on this side and then England on that side. Then here we'll get this little frog. So like I said, these different figurines would have all been parts of little sets of different things. So this is also, as far as I can tell, one of the earlier figurines in these Wade collections. And this one says Wade, England on the bottom. It's a pretty cool little froggy. There were many dog figurines. We have a few sets, a few different examples here, but not a huge number. There was quite a few dogs and puppy figurines. This is a Cocker Spaniel. And again, it says this one has Wade on that side and England on that side. Here's a couple of fawns. Again, these are from the earlier batches of these figurines. And here you can see a pretty big difference in the painting style. One has a lot more blue and black on the ears than the other. And you'll see, if you look online, you can see there's quite a few different styles of these items. And these ones say along the back, Wade, England, all on the same side. So it's probably more a matter of where they had room to write Wade, England, as opposed to meaning much if it's on one side or the other, or both sides, or it's Wade on one side, England on the other side, kind of thing. Here's another dog. As I said, there's quite a few different variations of dogs. Oh, sorry, this is not the same thing. But this one is the dog. This is a German Shepherd. Is that what they call a German Shepherd? I think it had another name in their set as well. And again, this one says Wade, England on this base right there. Again, you'll see variations on these, different coloration, some of the examples out there. You know, and they say collecting items like this can be as helpful or as something like meditation for some people. And one nice thing about these, if you wanted to get into collecting, one nice thing about these Wade figures, I mean, kids often like them, so it might be an interesting thing for kids to try. But they're pretty affordable and they're pretty readily available. These aren't high value items. You can usually pick these up for a couple of dollars, and probably at a garage sale you might even get them for less. Garage sale or estate sale, something like that. But back to the whole idea of collecting. For some people, it has some of those same effects of something like meditating, or it's also a way to kind of get involved in a community. There's sort of a community aspect to it. There's also a level of knowledge building, right? I want to go out and research these different items. So there's a curiosity aspect to it. They say it can help with memory, brain functions. I suppose, if you get collecting some things, it can turn into clutter. A nice thing about collecting something like these little figurines is you can have quite a few of these figurines and they don't take up that much space. Now this one is a fox. Kind of a chubby little fox. He's cute, and it says it has Wade, England around the base. Again, this would be, as far as I know, one of the older ones, so probably from the 60s. I like this little armadillo. It's kind of different. And again, I guess because it doesn't have a base, it says Wade, England on the bottom side. So yeah, I'm not sure, where my mom got all these, but I think most of them came from Rose Tees. Now this is another dog. You can see we have 3 examples of this little dog. And they're all pretty similar, but they each have their own, a couple of unique, small unique differences, but these 3 are painted pretty similarly. Assume we're going to find, so here we have on this side, it says Wade, England, right there. Kind of a cute dog. There's 3 of them, all looking up at us for their treat. And they say collecting can reduce anxiety as well. You can arrange and rearrange your collections, maybe change how you display them. And one nice thing about these little figurines is, it's not like they're going to fill up your whole house. They're pretty small, and you wouldn't need a huge amount of space to either store or display them. I'm sure, like anything else, I guess it can get out of control. But this little trout. Now, I looked online and I saw quite a few variations on the color schemes on this trout. Many have a lot more red on the tail and other variations. And this one I see is one has a little chip. I think it's the only one that I've seen with a chip. I like this trout though, it's pretty cool. It's interesting. And again, this one says Wade, England, around the base again. So, I mean, I think if you had a child that wanted to start collecting something, these little Wade figurines are not a bad place to start. They're, like I say, pretty affordable. You can probably buy, a number, probably most of a collection, or most of one of their sets, like a circus set or wild animal set, or one of those for not a huge amount of it, not a huge investment. And a couple dollars a piece. Kind of build up your collection over time. If you want to make it, a bigger challenge, of course, you don't just go online and buy them, but you scour around garage sales and things like that, trying to find, your favorite ones. And like I said, there's the research part of it, where you can go through and try to find, a set that you think is interesting, and go try to collect all the figurines in that set. And I'll tell you, some of the animals and sets they have out there. There's one wild animal set is animals like a tiger and a camel, zebra. There's bison, eagle, a giraffe, cockatiel, a puppy, a timber wolf, a sea turtle. Those are all figurines that are available out there. There's orangutan, giraffe, a rhino, camel, zebra, gorilla, a panther, a leopard, a kangaroo, and a circus series that includes a seal. And I think the seal in the circus series is different than this seal, which is part of an animal series. There's a poodle, a tiger, a clown, monkeys, a bear, a lion, and a ringmaster. There's also some other kind of odd ones. There's a strong man, a human cannonball, and a sitting and standing elephant. So I don't really have, a particular favorite animal. Maybe you have a favorite. I like most animals. Elephants are cool, but I don't really have a single favorite. Maybe you have a favorite animal that you're fond of. Maybe you collect figurines or stuffed animals or otherwise. Maybe you can drop a comment about what's your favorite animal. And maybe your favorite's one of these in this collection, a fox or a fawn or a owl. Maybe it's not part of the Wade Whimsies, but maybe it's a squirrel. Maybe your favorite's a squirrel. Or maybe it was one of the other animals that I mentioned. It's your favorite. I know a lot of people are fond of frogs. There's Kermit. But yeah, drop a little comment And if you're familiar with, want to drop a little knowledge about either this Fred K. ceramics and what these little figurines might be, there's a background on those little figurines, or if you just want to straighten me out on some of the things about these Wade Whimsies. Like I said, from what I could gather, this set, or these particular figurines are a little older, probably 60s and 70s. And these up here are all part of a set that came out in the 80s, if I have that right. And if you do ceramics, maybe you can also drop some knowledge about how these might have been made. As I said, my wife, thinks they were a mold, and then they would have been fired one time, and then painted and glazed and fired again to get this final product. And she does ceramics, but not exactly this kind of ceramics, but so she would probably know, but maybe at the large manufacturing scale. They say, I think the Rose Tea Company says there's something like 300 million of these figurines out there, which is another reason why they are kind of maybe a fun little starter. Get into some collecting, because there's so many out there. They're relatively, they're pretty available, pretty widely available, and like I said, they're pretty affordable. Compared to some things you can collect. I don't know what started my mom collecting these. But she probably just liked, the little animals, the little figures. Maybe you have a favorite of these figurines too. I don't know, there's quite a few nice ones. I think the owl is maybe one of my favorites. It's kind of cool. I like this little owl. But yeah, there's quite a few that are cool. I mentioned the bird, just the colors are nice. And the trout even, but our little trout here does have a little chip. But I guess that gives him character. Well, I hope you found this video relaxing. Maybe you'll want to start thinking about collecting some Wade Whimsies for relaxation. If you did like the video, please subscribe to my channel. Hit like on the video. And if you're already subscribed, I thank you and appreciate it. And most importantly, thanks for watching the video. And we'll see you next time. Good night.